Imagine this: every day you give the world pieces of yourself, your emotions, your plans, your weaknesses, your heart. And every day, someone uses them against you, drains your energy, or underestimates your value. What if I told you that true power isn't in showing everything, it's in hiding three things every single day? Today, I'm going to reveal the three things a woman should never let the world see, because protecting these is the key to keeping your peace, your strength, and your unstoppable power. Are you ready to discover the secret no one else will tell you? When a woman learns to guard her emotions, she learns to protect her power. See, emotions are not weakness, they're energy, they're signals. They're the internal compass that helps you understand what's right, what's wrong, what feels safe, and what doesn't. But the problem comes when you hand that compass to people who don't know how to read it, or worse, people who want to break it. When you open up your heart to everyone, you give strangers the map to your peace. And the truth is, not everyone who asks, "What's wrong?" actually cares about fixing it. Some just want to know where your cracks are so they can pour salt in them later. We live in a world where oversharing has become the norm. You can scroll through social media and see people spilling their entire emotional state to a crowd that claps for pain, but disappears when it's time to heal. The more you expose your emotions, the more you invite noise into your soul. Because the moment you tell everyone how hurt you are, you give them the ability to interpret your pain in their own way. And that's dangerous. Because once people start labeling your emotions for you, they start controlling your narrative. A woman's emotional life is sacred. It's not meant for public consumption. Not everyone deserves to know when you're struggling, when you're heartbroken, or when you're tired of being strong. There's a difference between being honest and being exposed. Honesty means acknowledging how you feel. Exposure means giving people the power to play with it. You have to be selective about who gets to see you at your lowest. Because if you're not, you'll start depending on temporary people for permanent healing. And that never ends well. When you hide your emotional struggles from the everyday world, you're not being fake. You're being wise. There's a maturity in silence. There's healing in privacy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Because when you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you start hearing yourself clearly. Your emotions don't need validation to be real. They just need space to be processed without judgment, without pity, and without the weight of other people's opinions. Let's be real. There are people who will act like they care about your pain just so they can feel better about themselves. They'll listen, nod, and then twist your words when it benefits them. They'll use your vulnerability to feel powerful. They'll keep mental notes of your bad days, and when the time comes, they'll use those notes as weapons. And that's why emotional privacy is not about pride. It's about self-respect. You don't owe anyone the story behind your tears. You don't need to post your pain for it to matter. Some emotions are meant to be felt in quiet, processed in prayer, and healed in time. There's something deeply powerful about a woman who feels everything, but doesn't show everything. She can be hurting and still walk with her head high. She can be disappointed and still choose grace. That's strength, not because she hides what's real, but because she controls who gets access to what's real. Control doesn't mean suppression, it means discernment. It means knowing that your emotions are valuable, and value is not meant to be displayed everywhere. When you hide your emotional struggles, you protect your energy from being drained by people who only take and never give. You keep your focus on the things that matter: your healing, your purpose, your growth. You stop chasing validation from people who can't even handle their own emotions. Because here's the truth: people who can't manage their own chaos will always try to manage yours. They'll give advice they don't follow. They'll speak on wounds they've never healed from. And if you let them, they'll drag you into their storm while pretending to guide you out of yours. There's peace in mystery. When people can't read you, they can't manipulate you. When they can't tell if you're sad, they can't use guilt to pull you back. When they can't predict your emotional reactions, they can't play games with your triggers. The more unpredictable you become emotionally, the more powerful you are mentally. Because control is not about suppressing what you feel. It's about choosing when and where to release it. You can cry behind closed doors and still walk out like a queen. You can break down in private and rise in public. That's emotional intelligence in motion. Too many women think being strong means never feeling pain. But real strength isn't about avoiding emotions, it's about managing them wisely. You can acknowledge your sadness without making it someone else's entertainment. You can face your anxiety without giving it an audience. You can grieve privately and still glow publicly. The world doesn't need to see your process to respect your progress. In fact, the less they know, the more they wonder. And that wonder protects your peace. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is tell the wrong person how much something hurt you. Because once they know your pressure points, they'll use them. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but eventually they'll test your limits. That's why you have to learn emotional discipline, the ability to feel deeply without leaking constantly. Every emotion doesn't deserve expression. Every tear doesn't deserve an audience. Some days, you've got to sit with it, breathe through it, and remind yourself that you are not your struggle. You're the storm that survives it. You owe it to yourself to keep certain feelings sacred. Your frustration, your confusion, your heartbreak, those are not things to perform. They are things to process. And the right people, the ones who truly love you, they won't need constant updates to know when something's off. They'll sense it. They'll care quietly, not loudly. They'll show up without needing you to announce your pain. That's the kind of emotional connection that doesn't drain you. It heals you. Guarding your emotions doesn't mean closing your heart. It means opening it strategically. It means knowing the difference between emotional expression and emotional exposure. One brings relief. The other brings regret. You don't have to tell the world when you're tired. You don't have to explain why you're distant. You don't have to share every wave of sadness that hits you. Because the truth is, most people aren't listening to understand. They're listening to respond, to compare, or to gossip. And your emotions are too precious to become someone else's small talk. The next time you feel that urge to overshare, pause. Ask yourself, what will this give me? What will this cost me? Because every emotional confession has a price. And the wrong listener will make you pay it over and over again. But when you learn to keep certain emotions to yourself, you build emotional wealth. You stop letting the world borrow pieces of you that they never return. You keep your softness safe behind your strength. You become unpredictable, untouchable, and unshakable. Because a woman who knows how to feel deeply, but not publicly, is a woman who cannot be destroyed quietly. When a woman hides her next move, she takes back control of her life in a way most people never understand. We live in a time where everyone feels entitled to know what you're doing, where you're going, and what you're planning next. Every goal becomes a post. Every dream becomes a caption. And without even realizing it, you start feeding your energy into noise instead of results. But the truth is, silence is strategy. The less people know, the more power you hold. Because when your next move is private, your progress becomes unstoppable. Every time you announce your plans before they're ready, you invite opinions, doubts, and distractions. Some people will discourage you because they can't see your vision. Others will secretly compete because they're intimidated by your potential. And a few will smile to your face while quietly hoping you fail, just so they can feel better about not moving themselves. That's why your goals deserve privacy, not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting your growth from being poisoned by other people's energy. Think about it: when you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to show people it's growing. You water it. You give it sunlight. You protect it from the weather. That's how dreams work, too. Your plans need protection from exposure. Every time you share your next move too soon, you risk letting doubt creep in. Not just theirs, yours too. Because when too many voices surround your goal, you start second-guessing your own instincts. You start questioning your timing, your abilities, your worth. And that's how good ideas die. Not because they weren't powerful, but because they were overexposed. A woman who keeps her next move private is dangerous in the best way. She's not seeking validation. She's not asking for permission. She's moving quietly, building steadily, and letting results speak when the time is right. People notice when she changes, but they never know how it happened. They just wake up one day and realize she's not where she used to be. And that's the beauty of it. You don't owe the world your blueprint. You don't need to broadcast your every step to prove you're working. Your silence doesn't mean inactivity. It means intention. There's a peace that comes with privacy. When you stop explaining your dreams, you stop defending them. You stop wasting energy convincing people who don't see what you see. And instead, you put that energy into execution. Because success doesn't need an announcement. It needs consistency. The loudest people are usually the least focused. The quiet ones, they're too busy becoming who they said they'd be. And that's the mindset you have to adopt if you want real progress. Move in silence. Let your results do the talking. When you keep your next move hidden, you also filter your circle. You start to see who supports you only when they know your business and who supports you even when they don't. Some people only hang around to gather information, not to offer help. The moment you stop giving them updates, they disappear, and that's a blessing. Because the people who truly believe in you don't need to know your plans to be in your corner. They trust your direction, even if they don't see the roadmap. Privacy builds power because it builds focus. Every time you talk about what you're going to do, you release a bit of that energy into the world. You start feeling like you've already achieved it, and the motivation to actually do it starts fading. It's psychological. That's why so many people get stuck in the excitement of planning and never make it to the discipline of doing. But when you keep your goals to yourself, you keep your fire alive. You stay hungry. You stay grounded. You let your silence sharpen your drive. And here's something most people don't understand. Moving quietly doesn't mean moving alone. It means choosing who gets to know what and when. It means sharing your progress with people who can multiply it, not those who'll drain it. You can still have support, but it has to be intentional. You can't tell small-minded people big dreams. They'll shrink them. They'll laugh at them. They'll remind you of all the reasons it won't work, not because they're right, but because your ambition triggers their comfort zone. Protect your dreams from that kind of energy. Every successful woman understands the art of mystery. She doesn't show all her cards, not because she's hiding, but because she's playing the long game. The more unpredictable you are, the harder it is for anyone to interfere with your momentum. People can't ruin what they can't see. They can't attack what they can't predict. They can't compete with what they don't understand. Your silence is not a weakness. It's a shield. It keeps your plans safe until they're strong enough to stand on their own. You'll notice how peaceful life becomes when you stop announcing your every step. No pressure to perform. No eyes waiting to judge. No noise clouding your judgment, just you and your purpose. You start trusting yourself again because you're no longer outsourcing your confidence to the crowd. You stop needing applause for motivation. You stop explaining your why to people who will never get it. You start realizing that real success doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being consistent when no one's watching. When you move in silence, your wins speak louder. There's something powerful about people underestimating you. They don't see you coming. They think you've slowed down. They assume you've stopped. And then, suddenly, you show up 10 steps ahead. That surprise is the reward for your discipline. Because while they were watching, you were working. While they were talking, you were building. While they were doubting, you were becoming. And that transformation hits different when nobody saw it coming. So learn to be quiet in a loud world. Learn to protect your plans like they're gold, because they are. Not every idea deserves exposure. Not every goal deserves discussion. Some things are meant to be nurtured in private until they're too solid to be shaken. Keep your dreams sacred, your circle small, and your silence intentional, because a woman who moves without noise moves without interference. And a woman who moves without interference becomes unstoppable. When a woman hides her weaknesses, she gains a power that most people never even realize exists. Weaknesses are not shameful, but they are vulnerable points, parts of ourselves that, if exposed carelessly, can be used against us. Every human has insecurities, flaws, and limits, but the moment you allow the world to see them freely, you give away control. People are opportunists. They notice cracks, and they test them. They may not even be malicious intentionally, but by understanding your vulnerabilities, they can manipulate situations to their advantage. That's why discretion is strength. Knowing your weaknesses but not displaying them is a mark of intelligence, maturity, and strategy. Every woman faces moments of self-doubt, moments where fear creeps in, moments where the weight of life seems too heavy. And it's natural to want to share those moments with someone else. But here's the truth: not everyone deserves access to those vulnerable places. When you share your weaknesses with the wrong people, they may unintentionally or intentionally use them to test your limits. They may try to provoke reactions, to push boundaries, to see how fragile you really are. And that's why guarding your weaknesses is essential. It's a way of ensuring that your emotional and mental space stays protected. Hiding weaknesses doesn't mean pretending to be perfect. It doesn't mean acting invulnerable or denying your struggles. It's about being strategic. It's about understanding that some knowledge is power and some knowledge in the wrong hands is a weapon. When you keep your weaknesses close, you control the narrative about yourself. You prevent others from defining you by your faults. You prevent your fears from dictating the way people treat you. And you maintain a level of autonomy over your own story that is rare and powerful. People are naturally drawn to exploit vulnerability, not always consciously, but instinctively. They test limits, they make assumptions, they use weakness as leverage. It could be in personal relationships, friendships, or even professional environments. Every time a woman exposes a weakness prematurely, she risks being underestimated, manipulated, or judged unfairly. By hiding weaknesses, she maintains dignity and resilience. She ensures that the only people who witness her vulnerable moments are those who are equipped, worthy, and empathetic enough to handle them. There's also a psychological benefit to guarding your weaknesses. When you recognize them but keep them private, you train yourself to work on them without external pressure or judgment. You become self-reliant. You don't need validation to acknowledge your flaws. You don't need applause for progress. You can grow in peace, without competition or comparison, and without the distraction of opinions that often misrepresent your reality. The world tends to celebrate strength, but often punishes visible weakness. A woman who openly displays her struggles may be pitied or dismissed. People who perceive vulnerability as incompetence may treat her differently, even if subconsciously. By hiding weaknesses, a woman avoids unnecessary bias and prejudice. She ensures that her capability is measured by action, results, and presence, not by moments of struggle that everyone experiences, but not everyone sees. Furthermore, hiding weaknesses preserves a sense of mystery and control in relationships. When people don't know the full extent of your vulnerabilities, they can't manipulate, control, or take advantage of you. They are forced to engage with the person you choose to show them, strong, composed, and self-aware. That doesn't mean you're lying or being deceptive. It means you're protecting the sacred aspects of your identity. It's a boundary, and boundaries are essential for mental and emotional well-being. Every successful woman learns to balance awareness and privacy. She acknowledges her weaknesses internally, works on them, and seeks guidance selectively. But she doesn't offer them as tools for others to use. She understands that everyone is capable of causing harm if given the right knowledge, and she ensures her weaknesses are her own. Never currency for manipulation, never fodder for gossip, never leverage for someone else's gain. Guarding weaknesses also fosters resilience. By confronting them in private, a woman builds strength organically. She learns to handle challenges without the added stress of external scrutiny. She experiences growth in solitude, which makes her unstoppable in public. People will see her progress, her poise, and her accomplishments, but they will never see the hours of struggle behind it unless she chooses to show them. And that choice is always hers. A woman who hides her weaknesses sets the standard for respect. She communicates without words that certain aspects of herself are untouchable, sacred, and non-negotiable. She cultivates authority simply by the way she controls access to her vulnerability. People are more likely to respect boundaries when they sense they are intentional and not arbitrary. Hiding weaknesses becomes not just a form of self-protection, but a silent declaration of power and self-worth. In a world where oversharing is normalized, discretion is revolutionary. When a woman keeps her weaknesses hidden, she flips the dynamic. Instead of allowing others to shape their perception of her based on her vulnerabilities, she shapes her perception based on her strengths, her actions, and her choices. She controls the lens through which she is seen and judged, and that control is priceless. There's also a freedom that comes with guarding weaknesses. You no longer live in fear of judgment. You no longer feel the need to explain or apologize for your flaws. You carry them privately, work on them privately, and decide when and with whom they are shared. That freedom allows her to focus energy on what truly matters: growth, achievement, and meaningful connections. Hiding weaknesses doesn't make a woman cold or unfeeling. It makes her strategic, aware, and empowered. It allows her to interact with the world on her own terms. It ensures that every revelation, every confession, every moment of vulnerability is deliberate and intentional, not reactive or coerced. She becomes a master of her own narrative, protecting what is valuable while still allowing authenticity in controlled ways. Ultimately, a woman who understands the power of hiding her weaknesses is a woman who commands respect without demanding it. She maintains her dignity, her strength, and her focus. She ensures that her energy is reserved for what deserves it and shields it from what is not. She learns the art of internal fortitude, growing stronger with every silent battle fought behind closed doors, knowing that the strength she builds privately will manifest publicly when the time is right. When a woman hides her heart's attachments, she safeguards her value and her freedom. Attachment is natural, it's part of caring, loving, and connecting. But when attachment is visible too soon, too openly, or too intensely, it becomes a tool for manipulation. People can sense dependency, they can exploit desire, and they can use emotional investment as leverage. Showing too much of your heart allows others to take what they want without offering the respect, effort, or reciprocation that you deserve. By keeping attachment private, a woman maintains her dignity, preserves her peace, and ensures that her love is never a bargaining chip. Attachment is not weakness, but it is a vulnerability. When you become emotionally invested, you create openings. You hope, you worry, you give, and you sometimes compromise your own boundaries. If these patterns are visible, they can be taken advantage of, often subtly. Someone might test your limits, delay reciprocation, or even manipulate your feelings to maintain control. A woman who keeps her attachments hidden prevents others from gaining this power over her. She keeps her heart guarded until trust is earned and respect is proven. By hiding attachment, a woman also protects her emotional stability. People are unpredictable. Their intentions are not always aligned with your needs. Revealing too much attachment too early can lead to heartbreak, disappointment, and unnecessary emotional turmoil. But when attachment is reserved and measured, the heart can remain calm, collected, and resilient. This doesn't mean a woman becomes cold or distant. It means she is wise, strategic, and aware of the emotional risks inherent in overexposure. A private attachment ensures that relationships are built on genuine respect and reciprocity rather than convenience or exploitation. People who are drawn to a woman because of her emotional availability alone are rarely aligned with her true values. They may seek comfort, validation, or control. By keeping her heart guarded, a woman attracts individuals who value her fully, not just for what she offers emotionally, but for who she is as a whole person. This sets the stage for deeper, healthier, and more meaningful connections. Hiding attachment also cultivates independence. A woman who demonstrates emotional self-reliance cannot be easily manipulated or swayed by temporary affection. Her sense of self-worth does not hinge on someone else's attention, approval, or consistency. She loves intentionally, she invests carefully, and she avoids the trap of needing validation to feel secure. By doing this, she ensures that her love is a choice, not a requirement, and that her heart is given only where it is valued and respected. There is a subtle power in unspoken attachment. People notice when you care, but when your care is not displayed as desperation or dependence, it commands respect. Hidden attachment creates mystery, intrigue, and admiration because it is authentic but not performative. It allows a woman to maintain emotional balance while still connecting deeply. She can love fully without surrendering control, and she can give attention without being diminished or exploited. Furthermore, keeping attachment private reinforces boundaries. Emotional boundaries are critical for maintaining personal integrity and peace. When attachment is overt, boundaries are often blurred. People may overstep, assuming access to your thoughts, time, and heart. But when attachment is controlled, it signals to others that respect must be earned, not assumed. This fosters healthier interactions, reduces conflict, and allows a woman to maintain agency over her emotional world. Hiding attachment also prevents unnecessary heartbreak. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Not every connection is destined to be permanent. By not investing emotionally too soon, a woman minimizes the impact of disappointment and ensures that her heart remains resilient. She can engage in relationships, friendships, and partnerships fully, but without giving away pieces of herself that might later be taken for granted or misused. A woman who hides her attachment understands the difference between love and dependence. She knows that giving too much too soon can create imbalance, where she becomes more vulnerable than the other party. By regulating emotional exposure, she ensures that affection, attention, and care are exchanged in a fair and healthy manner. This approach fosters mutual respect and sets the foundation for strong, equitable relationships. Ultimately, a woman who guards her heart's attachments gains freedom, respect, and inner strength. She can navigate relationships with clarity and discernment, avoiding the pitfalls of overexposure and emotional exploitation. Her love remains powerful because it is intentional, controlled, and protected. By hiding what she values most emotionally, she ensures that her heart remains sacred, her self-worth intact, and her energy reserved for people and situations that honor her fully. This practice is not about mistrust or emotional distance. It is about wisdom, strategy, and self-preservation. It allows a woman to care without compromise, to love without losing herself, and to invest in relationships that are reciprocal and genuine. Hiding attachment transforms vulnerability into strength, desire into intentionality, and connection into a force that elevates her life rather than diminishes it. A woman who masters this principle commands her emotional world. She does not give her heart freely. She gives it wisely. She does not show dependence. She shows strength. She does not allow her feelings to be a tool for others. She allows them to be a reflection of her own self-awareness, boundaries, and value. In doing so, she becomes a woman who cannot be taken lightly, a woman whose love is respected, and a woman whose heart is her power.